Awesome. We're all here. So,
We're
welcome everyone.
rolling.
And thank you for joining us for the first ever Charging Ahead interview. And it's a big one. Today, we are talking about the future of urban mobility as not so far off concept, but as something that's real, that's urgent, and that's in development right now. I'm so happy to be joined by John and Caesar, two main people of TUGA Innovations, a company that's rethinking how we move through cities, one bold design decision at a time. TUGA is, let's say, at an intersection between mobility design and sustainability. It's a vehicle that doesn't really fit in any box, and that's exactly the point of TUGA Innovations. We'll dig into these ideas behind TUGA, the product that's really turning heads, that's the strategy behind the market moves, and where do you guys see urban transport and micromobility in the next 5 to 10 years? So let's get into it. John, Caesar, welcome. And
Thank you very much. We are
Glad to
very
be here.
pleasant to be here.
awesome. Awesome. We're glad to have you guys. We did have a short conversation before this interview. And
Mhm.
just to repeat once more, we're really happy to have you here. And we hope to have a few more editions with you guys. But let's dive into the first question, which would be for both of you, actually. What pulled you into the world of mobility innovation? What made you do the things you do right now?
Man, and I'd have to say, as Caesar pulled me into it, so I'd say, Caesar, over to you.
Okay, it's a nice way to pass the ball, but someone need to make a kickstart. For first of all, thank you again to give us that opportunity for Chuga being expressing some about what we are doing during the last years. Uh, I don't know if this idea starts when I was a kid, sincerely. I'm an architect, 42 years of career. All my life was connected with vehicles. Suddenly, I was collecting classic cars. During my professional life as an architect, I was with the privilege to buy some vehicles, and from different eras, different types, from popular classics to sports cars to even the ancestors like the first 40s and the tricycles, motorcycles, and even with one wheel also. So all type of vehicles that moves creates something very powerful as a hobby that suddenly starts more serious when in big projects of my life as an architect, I was inside of transportation systems and in urban planning, understanding the importance of exactly the system of transportation and how these interfere so much in the developments and in the even in the design of the cities. So if we see that a city is a living creature, it's a living organism, you have the blood system, the veins. And that system of veins is exactly the system of road infrastructure where the blood needs to flow. And that parallel is very important to be understanding because if you have that flowing not working, your health is going to be in danger, and the health of the city will be in danger also. And in our health, we have medicines to take to allow our blood to be flowing. In the city, you need to take measures, or you have every day a problem that in the end is going to be reflected in the city users, the people that use the city and the people that live in the city. So TUG Innovations starts exactly picking that combination between the understanding of the city and the story of the vehicles to understand what could be a solution. And we don't want to be the solution because there is not never one solution, but several. We want to be part of the global innovation approach to allow cities to have a solution. So one more gun to put people having a resource to be making the cities more fluid and at the same time connecting cities. Because city, it's not only one area. Today, the city it's a global area that connects several cities that transform in the metropolitan area that today the urbanism baptized like the megacity or the metropolitan area. And we know that in the next decades, the cities will be growing and growing and growing. And Africa will achieve cities that we will not sing because it's going to be from a lot of decades, probably Marine and Philip, yes, but some of us only if science allow me and John to see it. But in 2075, 2100, we will have cities with more than 80 million people. And that continent, it will be in Africa. And we can understand why, because it's where the big cities are going to be built, because they have today a huge percentage of people living in the fields on the agriculture place, but they will be concentrating in urban areas because the human beings lives in cities and the agriculture is being robotized and mechanized. So the problem is going to be increasing till 2100. TUGA wants to be part of a solution for that.
Awesome. So you deem TUGA to be a better way to move generally throughout the environment, not just current urban mobility or current urban areas, but future. So you're thinking of a future-proof solution here, right?
Yep, exactly. And only to add one idea, we want to make these in two approaches. We want to move people, but also we want to move goods. Because in the city, you have two people, two creatures, two organisms that you need to move. Feed the city with goods, because we need to also use the city to support our necessities as human beings, but also the necessities of the companies. And you have not only the things that you need for your life to eat, but also all the things that you need for your work and your life every day. So we are on that two areas, moving people and moving goods. So I suppose it's a first global approach, what TUGA is addressing and what is our vision and where we are coming, because we are not coming from the industrial area. We are coming from the side of the city understanding of the urban planning. That is my area of work from some decades already.
So when we talk about Tuga as a product, I know you see there are the main person who was responsible for creation of it. So Tuga isn't exactly a car nor a motorcycle, right? It's something brand new, a brand new category. So what was your main priority when balancing the flexibility, comfort, safety in such a
Yeah.
small package, such a small design? And how do you measure that success for a vehicle that doesn't fit the traditional categories?
Um, well, our name expresses a bit what we are. We want to bring innovation, not create the unknown, because we believe that innovation is the answer, the correct answer to approach things that already the human beings create and thought about it. So it's how can we be picking some good ideas and make the update to our days and needs for the future. So we start understanding one vehicle that offers the flexibility during the last centuries. And I use that parallel several times when I talk about TUGA. We know that we can be walking after we choose a nice animal to be jumping in and making a reducing of time between point A and B. That is our friend, the horse. And during centuries, we use the horse. When we need to transport goods, we create the carriage, and we create the carriage to transport goods and people. If you jump to the 19th century and the 20th century, what we have is the same model. The horse is a motorcycle and the carriage is a car. So what we take out, it was the animal, and we replaced by a motor, an engine. When we make the electrification, we are maintaining exactly the same model. we maintain the same car, but we put out the engine of gasoline and we put an electric engine. So the problem is the same and remains the same, with a huge value, that is the pollution and the sustainability, etc. But sustainability, in some manners, is not every day connected with mobility. Mobility and sustainability, they can walk together, but they are different. Mobility is one thing, sustainability is other. In mobility, remaining with the same model of transportation, the carriage, we remain with the same blood vessels, with the same infrastructure, but we have much more cars because we have much more people. So how can I deal with my cholesterol if I cannot reduce the cars? Because we can reduce our cholesterol with some pills, but we cannot reduce the cars by a pass of a pill or a magic. So we need to create alternatives. And this where came another class of vehicles that were tested already during the story of vehicles, that is small vehicles, and in our case, not a car. We are not a car. Marin, when you said that we are a car, we are not even a small car. Small cars are with a nomination that is integrated in mini mobility, and they are micro cars. So the difference between a car and a micro car, it's only the scale, the volume, the dimension, but they remain a car. Americans have a nice explanation. Everything that don't have four wheels, it's not a car. I like a lot that definition because it's very simple and very correct. If don't have four wheels, it's not a car. If have two, could be a motorcycle, could be a bicycle. But you have three wheels, it's a tricycle or a three-wheeler. It's what TUGA is. TUGA is a three-wheeler, but with the dimension width of a motorcycle, exactly to have the freedom of a motorcycle, the freedom of a horse. Okay? So that parallel again between the horse and the driver of the horse, or the motorcycle and the driver of a motorcycle, it's the one that we want to bring to TUGA. But at the same time, we want to pick a lot of things of cars and why people use cars, and bring also a lot of balances of the cars and bring to that solution. And when we moisture all that in the recipe, we have our dish that satisfy a bit of both of the two worlds. And I need to pass to John because I can be talking about TUG, as you can imagine, hours and hours. So it's good to put John also participating. Sorry, John.
Thanks, man. No, it's good. It's good.
Yes. So staying in this lane. So what is one idea you had to strongly defend, something others didn't initially understand, and why was it difficult for others to accept, maybe inside and outside the company, investors, for example? And how do you internally test and improve something that's unconventional? Unconventional approaches, ideas, ways of working?
So if I understand, you're talking, Martin, the question is basically how do you validate your ideas?
Yes.
So first of all, I think, and ideas can come not just from Caesar's head, but any of the people in the team, and I say we have, I'd say vigorous discussions about everything. As it happens, Caesar and I do talk hours a day, but so we know how each other's brains work, but also what are what's the basic positioning of one another. So one thing is to listen to everybody in the management team about what they think about either an idea that's put before them or if they come up with another idea. The other thing I think is just it's really key is just to remain fairly open to new ideas. You're working on things and you have to really focus on them. So when somebody comes up with a new idea, you really have to be able to step back and say, okay, that's very much different than where we were headed beforehand, but try to peel that resistance to change away and say, is it a good idea or not? And at the where we are at this moment, we're not in production. We're developing our concepts and the whole project. This is the right moment to introduce new, innovative ideas that could also possibly change our strategy, our business model, our strategic partners. And that's happened. That's happened, I would say, 3 or 4 times over the last couple of years. I mean, kind of major things being proposed. Does that make
Awesome.
sense? Does that
Yes,
answer? Yeah.
Yeah. Uh,
absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah, I'd like to tie up on this one, John, since you just mentioned, let's say we can venture into the chapter of business model. Not just building vehicles, it's building a platform. So you're still a
Right.
concept, this is not in production. And how do you think about choosing between direct sales, subscription, and fleet partnerships at this stage?
So basically, again, when we started, Caesar had developed the project a fair amount, and when I came on board, we had very basic business model, and we were thinking, at least I was thinking, just about setting up dealerships and selling vehicles. So just to say, we didn't start out with saying, oh, we're going to have an innovative business model and we're going to do this and that. It's as we move forward. And I would say that the premise of, as an example, the premise of not selling, it's a huge premise. It totally impacts the business model, but the
Yeah.
premise of offering services and not selling vehicles, it was Caesar came up with it. I didn't even understand what he was talking about, to be quite honest, because I just couldn't get my brain around it. From that, we reached out to somebody who's now on our board of directors who works at Amazon Web Services, Luca Leonardi. He's with a lot of expertise in mobility as a service implementation. He worked in the Stellantis group. And so we validated it with him. And he confirmed that, said, guys, if you're thinking of launching a vehicle and setting up dealerships or working with others to set up dealership, there's no way it can be done. He said huge automotive manufacturers, Toyota, the margin on some of their entry level models is just nothing. The only margin they're making is in financial services around those models. So just to say, bringing on board different concepts. We try to talk about it among ourselves, try not to be closed, and then try to reach outside to validate them. And a lot of our validation, guys, for quite some time, we've been in presentation mode. That is, we have a presentation deck that tries to reflect our total strategy. So all the key, we constantly work on it. And so our deck is our strategy. Our deck is basically requests for funding. And so it has elements of financials, but in a nutshell, if it's not in our deck, it's either we've said, hey, we have so much stuff in our deck, we can't start another strand to the story. But what I'm trying to say here, presentations that we do is a key way we get feedback into how people accept our story.
Yeah.
Cool.
Understood. Yeah.
Awesome.
So just to backtrack a bit, so the model you're leaning towards as a default would be a service model where you offer TUGA services, not TUGA as a product as the vehicle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So actually, the model that we have today is, first of all, it's an asset-light business model. The first and foremost, as our partners, Porsche Consulting USA, recommended to us, do not manufacture your vehicles until there are needs for 200,000 a year. That's a lot of vehicles. So we aren't manufacturing it. And basically, we looked at even providing those services. The first step was we would not be providing those services. We'd have service partners providing that. We would be proposing services, and let's just classify them for simplicity as saying an Uber-like service of we have an app, you want a vehicle that has certain advantages over other vehicles, you call it through our app, and we generate our revenue in that manner. That's that and that's the basic business model we want to put in. Now we're modifying that a little bit as we move forward because we're seeing some really very interesting opportunities in in working with vehicles that are offer driverless technology.
Just one more question for John. Since there are some financial traps in micromobility, let's call them that, what's some common mistake, common financial trap in micromobility you've seen others fall into, and how are you avoiding this? Like how to handle the complexity of service plus hardware, and is there something that you're doing that other micromobility companies are doing wrong?
So just to say, we're not in production yet. We'll come across many difficulties, and hopefully, with thinking them through, we'll be able to see the light at the end of the tunnel. However, that said, I do say that both Caesar and I are over 60 years old, and we've seen a lot of stuff in life. And our management team also is fairly old. We have some younger guys, of course, but just to say, I think it's by experience that, you could probably, man, if it's by experience that you can think things through, and another things, I want to say fearless determination. If even today, if we had to say, to be a successful company, we have so many steps ahead of us, you could think, oh my God, that's such a lot of stuff to work out. How can we ever do it? So hold it. That's not the question. The question is today, the question is, how do we fulfill what we need to by the end of the day, the end of the week, the end of the month? So there's a lot of things we don't have the answer to today, but we know we don't have the answer, but we can surround ourselves with expertise, and find solution that we can see at the end of the road. So I think it's kind of an attitude thing.
I suppose there are one key objective in the approach of our company, that is from the beginning, and it was a period that we lost a bit of control on that. And because when you start something and you want to be transforming from an idea to become real, sometimes, or in the majority of the times, you are able to say, okay, this is going to not be happening as I thought, but it's happening. And suddenly you are taking out a huge percentage of the soul of the company, because you are selling some part of that soul and sometimes compromising your company. And this was to be happening with TUGA Innovations. Okay, when we have in COVID our first investors and we went public, for us it was like a dream coming true. But the model, as John said, in my case, was like part of me was to the garbage, because I always thought, and I said that to John several times, we are not a product company, we are a solution company. What is the big difference? A product company, it's a shop where you buy a car, okay? How many times a day you need the car that you bought?
Yeah, twice, thrice.
Okay,
Yeah.
so you use your car during the morning, you go to your work, after probably you put your kid in the school, you take a coffee and you go work, you lunch in the area, you pick your car again, and you move to your house. And this is a routine that you make all days during decades of your life. It's something that you use as a good that you bought. Since the moment you leave the shop, you are already losing money. Okay? And you are losing money every day, man. Every day, till you sell your vehicle with 1, 2, 3, 4 years, probably more, with some kilometers, and no one is going to give nothing about him. And You use, you see the word that I'm expressing. You use your vehicle. So you use your vehicle as I use an object that you, all of you have in your house. Even John probably have one. That is the one that you make holes in your wall to put a painting. So you have a Black and Decker type of thing in your house that you have in some kind of furniture. It's there, and you never use it anymore till the moment that you need to put something again in the wall of a room of wherever. That tool, it's only needed in your house because you are going to use it only when you need. So when you need is to make that operation to have a hole in your wall to put a painting over there. It's the same with a car and with other type of vehicles. It's the difference in have or use. When do I sell one thing as an object, as one object, I'm selling a good. To sell that good, if it is a car, it's the process of the industrial mindset. Production, make it affordable, competition on price. I'm going to sell one time because it's to one guy, and the profit is going to be make it one time. If I have to rent my tool to make holes, I can be making that rent of that tool a lot of times because there are a lot of people every day that need to have holes in the walls. In a vehicle, I need to have a service to use that vehicle because there are people that need to use that vehicle every day in different times a day, arriving in different destinies, going to different destinies, and using every day. So if I have a mobility vehicle, so a mobility solution to feed the necessities of people, my scope of users are much bigger than the guy that go to a shop to buy a vehicle. So I can sell that use of the vehicles exponential higher than only sell the vehicle to Marin or to Philip because he is going to use it only one time or two times a day. So, and is where the services are growing every day according to the dimension of population. So if you provide them a service, they are going to use because they need that service. People need to use the system of transportation, yes or not? Yes. Everyday people that lives in the city, they catch buses, they go to subways, they catch planes. They are not owners of the subway. They are not owners of the bus. And even more, they are not owners of the planes. We want to have a solution inside of the system. And for that, you need to scope your solution according to the system of transportation. That was the difficulty in all the people around TUGA that John said. Understanding this mindset of a company that is being integrated in a system of transportation. And suddenly what we saw is people on the authorities of the system of transportation, they understood that TUGA plays a card on that. And that is because of the nature of the project. So the project today is being very well accepted because we are scoped to be inside of the public or private transportation system. And John is seeing, making a lot of meetings that we had during the last year and a half, that this is where TUGA is being successful. So investors came after all of this. I said to John several times, I need in the end to be very glad and very thankful to all the investors that said no to us. To all I want to appreciate and said thank you to said no to us. One time, two times, 10 times, 20 times. You know why? Because saying no allow us to be more exigent with us to be with a powerful project with time to be a project. You don't make a huge project without time. It's impossible. You don't have time to do a project. So that's the thing that, oh, we need to arrive to the market soon than the others. Let's have this in production in next year. Man, this is like suicide mode. I advise that there are pills that make a effect to a suicide much more effective. It's the wrong positioning, man. I'm a guy of
And
the
speaking of
project. I'm a guy of the
speaking of
project.
car ownerships,
Sorry?
just to sorry, I was just trying to connect the dots. Speaking of car ownerships, me and Philip had a conversation the other day. How if you live basically in like a well-connected city with a public transportation, owning a car is a luxury pretty much.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And if you
yeah,
need a car for a bigger commutes, a bigger travels, you just do something that's car subscription, long-term rental,
yeah.
something along those lines.
Article. I think it's an article, maybe 10 years old. It says cars are parked 95% of the time.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
So
yeah,
95% of the time they do nothing. So you are aiming at those 95% to turn that into something that generates revenue on a service model.
Man, I'm a love car, but I know that that object that I love, it's dying. The model
yeah,
of transportation is dying. We
yeah,
will need them. We will need them to make some trips that you want to do because we are animals that like comfort, that like status, that like brands, that we identify with some brands, with some pilots in F1, Ferraris against Mercedes, Manchester City against Manchester United. And we have choices to do according our perimeters and according our brains. So suddenly we understand since kids that a car it's made to transport the family. I go with my father, my mother, the family is good. We are going to a restaurant, and the car is allowing that process to be together as the house also allows another service that are people that use the rent process and there are people that own the house. It's different mindset. People that rent the house can be moving the house for another house very quickly. People that owns a house, they are committed to live there and to decide to sell the house, it's a problem. Where you have much more freedom to use, it's under the rental process. It's a lot of parallels. The systems allows us to create a lot of parallels. When I use the health thing about the fluidity of the blood inside of the system of transportation that we have inside of us, and we have several systems of transportation inside of us, you see that at each time that any system inside of us is blocked, we have a huge problem. So how can we stay feeding cities with numbers of cars that are not affordable there? One of these days, the guy that deals with that city is going to say, hey, stop this. We are already putting cars that have 250 kilometers an hour that only can move 30 kilometers an hour inside of the city. What a nonsense, man. What a nonsense by a vehicle that has a velocity of 220, 250 kilometers an hour, but you can only have 30 kilometers an hour. What type of vehicle it's making in a brand, engineers, design, price to be using to go from his bed to his job and to return from his job to his bed only
yeah.
at 30 kilometers an hour. So something is wrong with people, man. And I love
When
cars. I love cars. Okay.
Yeah, me too. When we were when the first time we chatted, you showed us it was a video I think of a family or a woman entering a restaurant with Tuga, and then Tuga parking itself and then
Yep.
picking her up after she had her meal.
Yeah.
So which is amazing concept. I was intrigued by it.
Yeah. Because we don't arrive to a transportation system that every generation saw in scientific fiction is teletransportation. As we don't arrive yet to teletransportation, and I'm putting the yet, after my sentence, as we don't arrive till teletransportation, we need to try to reduce our time transport, because teletransportation is you think you are there. So in a car, you think and you are not there. In a bus, you think and you are not there. The unique way that you think and you are there, it's on subway. Subway, you enter on this station and you know that in some minutes after you will be on the next. Why? Because they are on the dedicated lane. They are only there one one unit of several carriages together, and this amount of people in high speed is going to achieve. And that's why today we see Elon Musk bringing the hyperloop, and things like that, because it's dedicated lanes. Everything that you can put a single object in a dedicated lane, like a speedy train, like maglev in China or others, you have a dedicated lane to transport a huge number of people in high speed. But in vehicles, in the road, it's impossible. It's impossible. So how you manage in cities that have 500 years, how you manage that? Or even in the ones that you are designing today. What is the model of the city that are being designed today? Today, the cognitive city, the old smart city, the old city. So how can I structure these levels of historical cities or futurist cities if we don't create also alternatives to transportation of people? So what the humankind is coming, it's new systems of transportation. The olds are trying to survive. What cars are doing, it's to survive their industry. And we are seeing that some of them are disappearing. Imagine that brand that we love so much, bankrupt. Oh, the other. And today you see a fight on the industry to see who are the players that are going to be surviving and maintaining for some decades.
Yeah.
It's a
So
bit frightening. It's a bit frightening, I know, but it's the reality.
can you name, is it possible for you, Sir, to name like the top three things that modern cities are doing wrong mobility wise, and how Tuga comes in that picture?
For me, it's the model. It's what I said. When we put beside carriages and horses, or even bulls, when it was when some pioneers picked the engine bull or cow or mule or horse and put that dimension of the engine that put the carriage running, and put an engine there. And appears the guys like Carl Benz putting a little three-wheelers running with a small engine with a fuel that is not even gasoline. It's another type of fuel that you can buy even in a pharmacy, like alcohol moisture with other chemicals that allows that that Benz runs. I don't know if Marine and Philip knows, but when Carl Benz showed his prototype to investors, he get also knows and knows and knows. No, no, no. We don't going to be putting money on that. Never, never. And suddenly it was his wife, Berta, that put the money to allow him to make the first five. So his wife supported Mr. Carl Benz to have his first prototypes. And to prove that the vehicle runs, she picked the two sons, put it on the vehicle, and make a small trip with the vehicle, some 42 kilometers or 40 kilometers. And Carl don't know about it, but it was the proof of the concept running to transport people without a carriage with horses. And these were the big change to be having the first patent of a car. A car with 3 wheels, imagine. And with a delta configuration, 1 wheel in the front and 2 on the back, like TUGA. So the difference of concept between the first car patent of Carl Benz and TUGA, it's a tricycle with 1 wheel in the front and 2 on the back. It's some kind of a parallel, and that's why I said innovation. We are innovating a small type of vehicle that starts, man, a century ago.
This reminds me of a story, I think it's from Henry Ford, when he said, okay, if I've done what, if I asked people what do they want, they'd say faster horses.
Exactly.
And
Exactly.
yeah,
That's why Henry Ford
That's nice.
understood. Henry Ford understood. He is the father. If you ask to an American who created the car, he is going to say Henry Ford,
yeah,
and they will forget the guys that was much before him. But when I say before, it's decades before. But he created the industrialization of the process. He was the guy that saw the market and the needs of the market. So we make the first industrialization to be making mass production. And suddenly, 1924, he arrived to the 10 million units sold. 10 million units sold in 1924. It's a lot, man. It's
yes,
ships and ships over the oceans with keys on board to any destinations. But you mentioned agriculture because of the horses, but you can see in the story of US that they can use on the fields the Fords making the work of the mules. So
Yeah.
making the agriculture with Fords, man. Open the fields with not a horse, but with a Ford. So they use it. They use it. So what I'm saying today is it's not only taking out the engine and to put an electric motor that is going to solve the problems of the mobility, man. That model, concept model of a car, there is markets, there is people, there are consumers, and there are brands that are seeing that the market is there. There are a lot of buyers and they can be making cars. But the users of the cars are going to understand and seeing already that having a car, it's a problem for their lives. It's not anymore a solution for their lives. And guys with your generation, so the latest generations, they don't have any more to have. They are guys that have a mobility in the world that today they are in Croatia, tomorrow they are in London, and after tomorrow they are in Saudi Arabia. So why the hell I'm going to be paying a car during 10 years?
yeah, yeah, understood, definitely.
Okay, so this model, my friends, it's going to be dying slowly but dying every day, every day. One problem, cities growing. That you cannot reduce. Cities will be growing and turning bigger every day. And the metropolitan areas growing every day. So if people are living there, they need to move themselves
Yeah.
and they need to move goods. Goods and people need to be moved. How? In
Yeah,
trucks and cars
that's
on the
that's
same
an
roads?
yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, that's something we've been covering for quite some time. I mean, the every let's call it a big city with over 1 million people is just growing. The number of cars is exploding. The
1
congestion
million
of
is it's a small
number.
city,
Yeah.
really.
Okay. Yeah. We can say in a we can say a city like New York.
Yeah.
Uh,
You know how many cities you have today in the world with more than 10 million? John answered to that.
32 or 33 city of more than 10 million people.
Can you
Wow.
imagine?
Wow.
Yeah, let's think 2050. Like that would be a much higher number. And as you said, most likely in Africa, which reminds me of something we've not directly, but this reminds me of something we've already talked about before on our first call. I think Tuga covers land, but there is an integration that enables Tuga to cover air, and this is what really piqued our interest. And this would make it not only a land vehicle, but also a flying vehicle. So you're working both on driverless technologies, which we talked about, but also the drone integration. Could you tell us a bit more about the drone integration, about those ideas? What's being exaggerated in the media about the
Let
flying
me
car?
let me not be kind with you because you said a land vehicle connecting to a air vehicle. If we are talking about the vehicle, it's correct what you are saying. But we say several times when we present our deck that our solution is represented by a triangle. The vehicle, it's a vertex of the triangle. The technology all around software, it's another vertex of the triangle. And the last vertex is services. This
Yeah.
is what allows to express TUGA as a solution. So when you say your vehicle must, and sorry to say it like this, but it's only to pass the idea, it's to be said like this. The solution TUGA on land, it's going to be connecting with the solution on air. And this is what we want. It's connecting the mobility land solution with the mobility air solution. Why? Because behind all of that, there is a word called mobility. And mobility, it's, as I said in the beginning, flowing, flowing the system, not having interruption. Because if I need to interrupt, I have an accident on time. I have something that happens between the point A and point B. Like, for example, commuting. Commuting, it's an accident on the flow. I need to change for another model to make another ride. So I'm having some happening between my point A and my point B. When I connect these modes of attaching the same vehicle that is in land with a drone and getting to the point B, I'm not changing nothing. I'm adding and going, and when I arrive to the station, I remain inside of my flow till my destiny. So it's a mobility solution. Because if it is not, if I want to need to go to a station, take an eVTOL, go with this eVTOL to the next station, leave the plane or the eVTOL, go to another vehicle and go to my house, man, this is some kind of an exercise in trips. Where is the reduction of time in concept of mobility? You don't have. You have another type of mobility, but not the one that allows you to reduce your time travel. And you know why human beings create a car? Because, as you said, Philip, it's to reduce time of the horses. It's to go in a car more fast and safe than going with horses from point A to B. Today, probably I can be in a city more faster with a horse than with a car.
Yeah, that would be a bit accurate, actually.
I have an interesting question for both of you guys. Maybe John.
Yeah, now John must
So
compensate, man. John must compensate.
passing the torch. So interesting question. Imagining Tuga in 10 years, where do you see it? How does it look like? What achievements would you be the most proud of? And just can you give us some projections, some ideas you might have for the future, etc.?
I mean, looking, we have a business plan with, numbers right, left, and center, and I would say all of that. But let's say from a general concept, in a perfect world, we'd be involved in goods and people transportation in major urban areas throughout the world. Meaning, it wouldn't just be at this point in time. It it would be most reasonable to say that we'd launch in the U.S., but I would hope that in 10 years' time, we're in several different continents with very successful programs, and people really looking looking to use our services because they're great quality of getting from point A to point B. I mean, that's from a very generic.
This is my CEO, man. He wants to implement. In our case, we want to maintain a brain thought to say in 10 years, we will be with other solutions to be implemented for the next 20, because we can never be stopping in innovation. When you have an innovation brain body inside of a company, that brain must be fed with new guys, new ideas, never stopping. John has an important role. It's the guy that must be implementing things, the business plan, the roadmap, the milestones, the achievements to be there, talking with the operators, with the franchise guys that want to be having the license of TUGA on a city, in a country, talking with governments, with transportation authorities, etc. But the innovation must remain as key inside of the company. And we have a tremendous group of innovators inside of the company in fields like AI, AR, VR, and all connected. It's a powerful moisture, because we need to be surfing, man. We need to be making always on the real top side of the wave. We must be there always.
So I have one follow-up question. You are right now Portugal based, right? You're Euro based? We can say
Correct.
that. Or you're like,
Yeah.
But we are in Mars, man. We are in.
yes, that's what I wanted to say. How does it feel in 2025 to manage a business and then to scale it like on the multiple markets? You said
You
going
are
in the US market.
today, Marin. You are in the global world, man. Today there is no distance. We are here
Yeah.
as we can be in Croatia. And last
Mm-hmm.
week we were in Salt Lake City and in California. 15 days before we were in Abu Dhabi. Man, today the distances are so reduced. Even today we
Pretty
have
much irrelevant.
Portugal and Croatia together in a distance of nothing. We have and we are very proud to have probably a lead investor for all the project, and is an entity exactly that have vision as the first key in investment. What for me it's the real type of investor. The investor for me must be the vision guy, the vision investor. Okay, the marathon guy, the dream guy, because the other guys are financial guys, guys of the Excel, of the revenues, of the. They are not funding guys. That are financial guys. Let's make a huge difference between financial guys, okay, like the bank. You can go and have a loan in the bank. That guys is going to be how much you win, what is your parameters, if you are able to pay the loan. And well, when you go from a company to that type of investor, you are killed, man. That guy is going to be part of the disease that is going to kill your company. And I'm telling this to you to put on air for the investors, because they present themselves as investors, but they don't have the mindset to be investors. Someone said to that guy, "Oh, you play very well football," but the guy don't know what is a ball. He don't know, but he is convinced that he can be near a very good team in Croatia. But he don't, man. Someone said to him, "You are a guy tailored for that, man." But the guy don't know what is a ball. A lot of investors, and John and me, we present already, man,
Yeah.
man,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
guys
Yeah.
that even don't understand the clue about what we are doing. And you
But
can
have an
design
idea.
in
But
colors. You
have an
can.
idea. They talk. They have an idea. Oh, that's not good. Oh, you should do that. And it's like, say what?
So even if they are investors, I suppose there must be some kind of a degree to form investors, because they need to learn what is an investor. Investor is not a guy that only uses a nice suit, a nice car, and has a position with nice cards to make meetings, man. That is nothing, zero. Any investor is like we found in US, a guy, finally, you know how much time, how much knows Mr. Walt Disney have in this company? 300 no's.
Before getting financing.
Yeah.
He had 300 rejections before finding financing.
So if I get this right, so you're
Philip, you are not an investor, no? I didn't offend you.
Soon to be one.
so you're looking for someone who's a perfect fit, who really understands the issue that's plaguing urban micromobility and urban mobility in general,
Exactly.
right?
Exactly.
Yeah, but I would say our lead investor knows less about the mobility market. He has an understanding of urban mobility. That's clear.
Yeah.
But he says these guys are innovative. They seem to think that they can implement it. By the way, give me your business plan and financials behind it. But it's a totally different approach than if you look at a VC or somebody that just wants to jump on the numbers and see how much money they can get out of it. It's a
Exactly,
totally
man.
different. Yeah.
Exactly. It's the vision, man. It's the guys that see, well, there are key metrics that he wants to know. These services is something that makes sense as a market. Yes, man. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All the consultancies companies, you can go to AI, any platform of AI, and ask a simple question. Mobility services are going to increase. A simple question like my dog can ask. I said I always to John, I have a smart dog in my house, a tackle. That tackle is very smart. I can say, hey, Jake, Jack is the name of the tackle. Could you ask to AI if the services of mobility is going to increase or decrease in the next 50 years? And the answer is going to be, it's going to be decreasing. It's a problem, a market that is nothing. No, all the consultancy companies will say to you and validate to you that is a huge market of 8 billion people in the world. Okay. So there are markets for every companies.
Yeah.
There
So
are markets for every companies. We don't have any afraid to have 200 companies as TUGA in competition because there are place for all of us. Okay.
yeah, and competition is good in
And
basic.
competition is good. See this, Philip and Marine. What are the lifespan already of the companies using a whole system of transportation as a car? There are, man, probably 200 brands. Okay, 200 brands. In that
Just
200,
Chinese probably brands, new Chinese brands.
oh, but let's
Yeah.
put these. You have on the planet Earth an amount of brands of cars, of cars. In each brand, how many models you have? A lot, man. A lot. And they need to sell for their clients during the last decades, and they want to remain selling on the next decades. If there is market for guys buying these, what is the market for mobility service in this planet?
Yeah.
So
That's
our lead investor understood the basic equation. There is market. And the vision and how they are addressing the solution is good. Let's fund this company. And we are, with this done, almost closed. We are very happy, and we came from US from this meeting in Salt Lake City, and we are very near to ready to go. And when this is ready to go, man, TUGA is going to be implementing and action role, John role is going to be hard, but we will be really on the road to be making TUGA happen. And of course, this is the process that everyone likes to do is make it happen, make it implemented, and having the TUGA in shows, in events, in participating and putting all what we are doing into the communication as you are doing with us today.
Yeah, I mean, look, from everything we know about TUGA and everything we know about the current micromobility issues and issues of mobility in cities in general, there is a market for TUGA definitely. And this leads me to some of the final questions I'd have. What's something that's really the most misunderstood part of urban micromobility by both users and investors and maybe even policymakers? So what's something that people just don't understand about urban micromobility? John, in the meantime, while we get Caesar to connect back, I'd
Yeah.
like to ask you, uh, what's a small decision that ended up making a huge difference in the TUGA's trajectory? So in the trajectory of TUGA as a company, what is what made the biggest difference? You know how the Pareto's rule works, like 20% of effort brings 80% of results. What's that 20% of that brought TUGA here where it
Man,
is?
there's been so many what looked like a small decision that has turned into big things. I'd say probably we started out with a USA company, and our first question was where do we want to do our product development? And so the first probably biggest decision was to do it here in Europe. And I would say that the partner that we found and meant that we would be very involved with the engineering of the solution. What I mean by that is we could have gone out and said to a partner, and we went to places like ProDrive in the UK and another one in the US that say, give us your vehicle specifications and we'll offer you a turnkey solution. And basically, for a lot of money, you can get a vehicle at the end of that. But I think we chose something much different. We happenstance. So it was just by chance we found a partner in Portugal that could help us with the engineering aspect. We have our head of engineering who is driving it, but because we found a partner that was near to us, because we have an office in their premises, what that meant is our implication in the whole project was much higher. So just to say, and how that came about was a woman in our team, a young environmental engineer just out of university, said, "Oh, my father knows somebody that works in a company that designs that builds helps build Le Mans racing cars." And we thought that's impossible. I mean, they would be well known. And one thing led to another, and we've had a very successful relationship. So that's one of probably 20 examples I could give you of a small decision impacting profoundly, how we've developed since then.
What John is saying is tremendous importance, man. It's probably without a dimension that we can even imagine, and is the big difference is or you control what you are doing, or you don't, or you lose control about what you're doing. Only to you to understand, even with the importance of what John said, is today TUGA have 19 patents. Okay, 19 patents. Imagine that we close a contract with the manufacturer in the beginning and we try to make all the upgrades and updates and doing as exactly we want to do with a company that is there to win money and a lot of money and to provide you a hand made thing that somehow you are not there. And that decision to be doing with this company, they are not being making the engineering. They are helping designing the engineering that we are doing, because we are the authors and the designers of the vehicle, of the mechanic engineering and the electronic engineering. They are there to provide technical engineering to address what we are designing and addressing as a solution. So they are executing technical drawings for us under our guidance And in the end, all that property, intellectual property, belong to TUGA. So this is key to control the innovation inside of the technical solution of TUGA, because it's created in-house. It's you control the recipe of your soup. You know the dose of the ingredients to have in the end a nice meal. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Hmm.
I
Absolutely.
understand. It's a control over your company thing. So I
Yeah.
recently read something. I think it was yesterday. I read it. It's when you get Series A, Series B, Series C. I mean, yeah, it's a nice announcement. You get a lot of money, but you gave a portion of your control, and suddenly you have a silent boss sometimes who does things, who wants to do things that you don't want to do, who wants you to push you into some decisions you don't want to make. And I understand what you're aiming here at.
Yeah.
There's the last question I'd like to ask to you guys. This one is for all mobility people watching this interview well past 1 hour mark. So if you were mentoring a young mobility entrepreneur, and this is for all the young ones, and there are many, many, many more in Europe, what would be your number one piece of advice for a young mobility entrepreneur? What mistake they should avoid and what mistake they should really do?
So I'll start out just to say, I think where we are today, and the discussions we're having and the interest we're having in what we're doing is because the project is a solid project. So for young entrepreneurs, talk to people about your project, get input, see what people are saying around you. Don't just develop it with your team and then think, man, this is going to be the next biggest thing. You know, we're going to be the next Tesla of the universe. Don't think like that. That can really screw you up, to be quite honest. Make sure your project is a solid project, and it kind of all fits together. You know, anywhere from the design, of course, and so much starts with, in our case, so much starts with the design, but think the other elements through, how you're going to go to market, and bounce it off some people that can constructively help you make it more solid.
Probably I will add something to what John said that I agree. He said about the importance of the design. The design, for me as an architect, is a consequence of an expression. So it's an expression of something that you need to introduce as a piece of art, if you want to make that parallel. But what is behind that expression is what is important. I can make something so beautiful that it's not useful at all, but it's beautiful. Okay, and even can be a success in the market only because it's beautiful. But if we are bringing something to help people, you need first of all understand their needs, what that people really needs. If I find something that people needs, I'm already having something because I'm going to satisfy their needs. First equation. Second, I need to introduce this in a project. Don't think that you don't have time for the project. Time for the project is the most important part of your work. Because if you don't spend time with your project because you want to arrive very soon to with your company very fast, you are already wrong. You need to have time to think and to add value around people around you. Because you don't know near nothing. You need to add knowledge around you. Any type of good guys that you can be bringing, you are adding value because you know, first of all, that you need to feed something that you are already aware. People need this. People need this. And this is the reason because I'm doing this project for mobility. Okay, and inside of this big umbrella of mobility, there are a different type of needs, man. That are needs that never ends. Okay, that are needs that never ends, from transporting chickens to transporting dogs or cows or people or articles, everything must be moved. So there are a lot of things in mobility to be moved. So the type of approach you can be doing is to support the need of something. After came the design. Let's address something that is attractive for people and also what the cost of this could be. And after the last, I'm going to do a product or I'm going to do something to be used. And these different models. You can be profitable selling and you can be profitable using. So this depends on each one and the approach of the solution of mobility that each one wants to be making.
Man, Caesar, I feel like you're killing it today. Well
Yeah,
said.
Caesar
Man.
on
Okay,
fire.
thank you, Eddie.
Woo!
Woo!
Shoo!
Yeah, yeah. Caesar had a lot of gold nuggets today.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Keep the audience
Awesome
Thank you,
engaged.
thank you.
analogies.
It's you guys that are young that inspire me.
Thank you
Thank
so
you,
much. Yeah.
thank you,
Thank
thank
you.
you. And just to say, to wrap this up, huge thanks to John and Caesar for finding time to talk with us, to share their journey with the rest of the world, and for giving us a deeper look at what it really takes to rethink urban mobility from the ground up. From compact design to climate conscious tech, from regional strategy to vision, we see that TUGA is much more than a three-wheeler. TUGA is much more than a vehicle. TUGA is not a product, just to
Yeah,
say TUGA
exactly.
product. And it's a signal of where mobility is heading in the next 10 years, maybe next 20, 50, 100 years. And if you're following the evolution of city transport, micromobility, or climate design, keep your eye on this team. Keep your eyes on TUGA, and keep your eyes on charging ahead. We'll be back with more conversations that will push the boundaries of what's next in mobility.